Well, good afternoon, Greg.
Hello, Keith. How are you today?
I'm really good. Really good. This
Good.
is a Tuesday playoff game for the Mets.
I was just gonna say, I'm sure you're getting. Are
I'm
they
getting
playing?
ready. Now I got to get
Are
my
they
Mets.
playing tonight?
Yeah, five. I think they started like 5:30. Weird time. I was surprised.
Yeah, well, there's 4 games today, so they got to they got to stick them in wherever they can get them done.
It was exciting. It was an exciting day yesterday. Oh, my light just got. Wait a minute. What's going on here with my light? Oh, just lost the bulb. All right. We'll fix that later.
Technical
Technical
difficulties.
difficulties, yeah,
Yeah.
at Einstein, I think, was it Einstein who created the,
10,000 steps.
yep, 10,000 steps. So speaking of steps, so you and I have been in business a long time and we've experienced a lot of things, and I'm sure you could remember 30 years ago what it was like for companies that you ran and companies that I ran and owned. The subject of health insurance was something that, well, I personally, because I was a business owner and had to provide it to my employees, it was always a major expense.
Yeah.
That was, I guess looking back, given today's numbers, it was inexpensive, but even then, but everything's relative.
Yeah.
And it's probably one of the largest, costs in terms of benefits that employers provide to their employees. And if you're an independent business owner, or, and you work for yourself, again, you have to get health insurance. So I thought it'd be a good
And
idea.
as a business owner, Keith, you almost have to provide. You're not required to, but you almost have to provide it from a competitive standpoint. Right? Because if you're trying to compete for good employees and you don't offer medical insurance, how do you attract good employees?
Yes, but I do believe there actually is rules when they passed the Affordable Health Care Act that if an employee worked over a certain number of hours, you were required to provide them health
For
insurance.
companies over 50 employees, that's correct.
Over 50 employees.
Yeah.
See, that's the difference between you and I. You were a former COO and a CFO, and I just owned the business. What do I know? I
Right.
said it.
Right. Well, and that's certainly something that's relatively new, right? I mean, in the last few years since Obamacare came into practice. Yeah.
Right. There wasn't requirements back then to provide health insurance, but if you just said, if you want to compete and get the best employees and you don't offer benefits, that's usually, a negative.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was back then, it was difficult to get insurance other than through your group employment plan. Right? It was hard to go out. It's easier now today with some of the state websites and Obamacare where you can go out and buy it for an individual. But back then that was hard to do.
Yeah. I just remember that when that bill came in, it was like, it choked me, it was like, I mean, thousands of dollars in, fees to cover my employees.
Well, and I think to a certain extent, business owners felt somewhat helpless or like they lacked control over that expense item. I mean, when you think about it, like you just said, you'd get the renewal and it goes up 10, 20, 30%, which is not unusual. And it's happening today as well. And if you got that bill for something else, for supplies, right? You'd look at ways to reduce that cost. You'd look at other vendors, you'd look at, am I using this service or product efficiently, inefficiently? With that healthcare, we kind of feel like, well, it's our employees who are using it. it's their health or lack of healthiness that's driving up rates, although it's, you know, it has a lot to do with things, again, we can't control. So it's frustrating. I think it's frustrating for business owners.
It's frustrating because the things that we've learned in the last 30 years about how mental health, physical health affects employees' performance, you know, and there's such a connection between how people are taking care of themselves and whether they can even afford to take care of themselves.
Yeah.
So it's not like years ago, you just, you know, you hired some people, you trained them, they went to work. Now there's so much more that we know and the knowledge that we've gained that it's like, how do you keep up with all of this?
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, the other thing, back to your last point about insurance is because it's group health insurance, it's typically one rate for all employees. So the healthiest employee and the least healthiest employee pay the same. Even though that healthy employee probably won't use, you know, the 25-year-old male probably isn't going to use his health insurance at all, maybe once a year.
Correct.
And then you've got other people who are going to the doctor constantly because they have chronic issues or they're old, like you and me, or whatever.
Well,
So again, it's
a lot of people don't understand that the rates that a group gets is based on the census of the employees. So what they'll do when they give you a rate is they will take a list of all the employees, their age, their health, you know, all the things, previous conditions, although I don't think you can do anything about pre-existing conditions anymore, but it still affects the rate of the group.
yeah. I mean, the thing is about pre-existing conditions is they can ask the questions about it. And then I think they can set their rates based on those, but they can't deny you coverage. They can't say, oh, we're not going to cover Greg because he's a diabetic or something like that. Yeah. Yep.
So it's become such a big part of the costs of operating a business. Our country spends, you know, our politicians want to keep saying, oh, we want health care for all. Now, it sounds great, but with 38 trillion in debt, you know, so just keep adding to it, just keep printing money, you know, doesn't matter.
Well, we have examples of healthcare for all in other countries. And you know, take Canada for example. They do have healthcare for all. They also have what I would call kind of price controls when it comes to healthcare. In other words, doctors only get paid X amount based on kind of what the government thinks is reasonable and customary. And you know what happens is you get a lot of shortages. Healthcare in Canada, there isn't enough supply to meet the demand. So people wait 6-8 months for an MRI. There's I think the last time I checked, there's literally like 10 MRI machines in the whole country. You know, we have 10 sitting in one clinic in Minnesota.
Yeah, I mean yeah.
So
So
we know that doesn't work.
Socialized medicine, Greg?
Hmm?
Is that called socialized medicine?
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
So
anytime you got one payer system, right? So everybody is in the same system. So you can't, you know, the idea is if we make it more competitive, somebody who's really rich can go and spend whatever they want on healthcare, and those who are not as rich can find solid alternatives, right? But in a socialized process, it's one size fits all.
yeah, I mean, the key thing is to have access to healthcare. I mean,
Yeah.
because we don't have, you know, healthcare for all, people that have no healthcare and there's an emergency, they just wind up at the hospital. And I don't think the hospitals are allowed to turn them away.
Right.
That just adds to the debt of our country because obviously someone's got to pick up the bill.
Yeah.
It's a mess.
It's a mess.
Yeah. Which brings us to the topic that you and I wanted to discuss today, which is something that we've come across and we're now helping our clients and introducing this to them, which is called Impact Health Share. So that you could just discuss the part about what that means as far as health sharing. You know, if you're comfortable explaining that. If not, I'll be happy to do it.
Well, I'll do my best and then you can jump in as
I
well.
can
And,
fill in.
you know, this is still relatively new for both of us,
Right.
but we do think it's really an intriguing product. And in fact, I've become a customer of theirs. So, but the whole idea with health share is it's really not insurance. I'll say it's quasi insurance. But the idea is you get a bunch of people together, you get them paying into a pool, and then so there's funds available. And then as the members of that pool have claims, you know, doctor visits, whatever the case may be, they can submit their claims to the administrator of the fund, and they get reimbursed for their expenses. And the terminology is a little different in health share compared to health insurance. Like they don't use the word premium. They use I forget what the term is that they use there. But it acts like insurance, but it's just a different approach to insuring against, you know, high medical bills. And however they've done it, and I don't really understand completely how they've gone about doing this, but I think they've taken a lot of the fat out of the process and they're able to offer, you know, really affordable rates. I think in every case I've seen, you know, significantly lower than what an insurance company would offer. And not working through a network, you know, the ability to choose your own doctor. And just it really seems like it's again, it seems like it's a really great alternative to what we just talked about in the last 10 minutes and all the things that are wrong with today's health insurance market.
So I am going to fill in some of the points that I've learned myself. And I've been involved a little longer than you, so obviously I know.
And in a little better detail than I have been. Yeah.
So just to step back in terms of the explanation, and impact health or health sharing programs are not new. They've been around for close to 30 years. And if you really think of it from what goes on in a church, in a community, when somebody gets sick and everybody shares to help pay those bills. And that's really the premise of health sharing, health caring comes from that. And the reason that it's so impactful, using the word impact, is because you don't have all of the negatives that come with your typical health insurance, where you have an open enrollment season. There is no open enrollment. It's all year round. The costs are less because they're able to negotiate these rates because they have this large pool of people who are contributing into the system. And so you can pick any doctor that you want. You don't have to worry about, well, are they in my network? They out of network? You know, the deductibles, there's a deductible, it's 10%, but even the not the premium that you have to pay in on
It's the premium, but they use a different word to
Right, but I'm saying
describe.
that it's on a per family basis as opposed to, you know, what is it when I'm sorry, they don't call it a deductible. So the deductible is on a per family basis. You can basically, dependent upon what you choose, it's 2,500, 5,000, or 10,000. You're able to reduce your premium. Bottom line,
And I
30.
think what you're saying there, Keith, is the deductible applies to the family, not individual members of the family, right? So if one person has a significant cost issue, right, and they rack up a $10,000 bill, well, now for the rest of the period, you're going to be covered at, 90%.
Correct.
Yeah, everybody in the family. Yeah.
As far as pre-existing conditions, there's anybody can be covered. They have certain rules in terms of the pre-existing condition you have, how recent it's been. I'm not going to get into the weeds because obviously that's not our job. What I want to really do and what we really want to do is start to introduce this as something that our clients can offer, because the savings is 30 to 50%, whether it's, group or individual. And especially for people who have no insurance right now, they don't even have access to insurance. The plans start as low as $73 a month. So this is a very, very important subject. And, our goal when we consult is not to create an expense for our clients, but actually to help them find ways to reduce costs.
Yeah, what's really cool about this program is it's a business could invite Impact Health in and sign employees up, but individual business owners, right? Solopreneurs, right? I mean, that's an issue for anyone who owns their own business, is like, okay, how do I provide health insurance for myself? I don't have an employer. I don't have any group health access. Well, this gives you access to what I would say is relatively affordable healthcare as a individual business owner.
Right. And it covers, mental health. I mean, you could go to anybody that you want to go to. So there's a lot of benefits. As I said, this is something that we will continue to promote and put out there to our audience so that they can get more details on that.
Keith, what I like about this is it does address, a problem that a lot of business owners have, which is health insurance. But the other thing I like about this is it demonstrates a creative way to solve a problem. And I think, beyond just health insurance, that's one of the things you and I do, is we look for creative ways to solve problems for business owners. I think this is just a perfect example of that, because it is a little bit out of the, out of the box thinking. Some people hear about it and they're like, oh no, it almost like it sounds too good to be true, or they're worried about the fact that it isn't traditional health insurance, even though they don't like traditional health insurance. We're all a little bit hesitant of something new or different. Go ahead.
Yeah, look, you and I when we first heard about this and looked into it, we both felt like, what are we missing here? So the thing that I really want to focus on is that, one, we've done a lot of due diligence on this concept. It's run, Impact Health is run by a nonprofit. They are 501c3, so they're audited. They're very transparent in terms of how healthy they are financially and fiscally. So, which is real important. And this is really, the future, at least as far as I'm concerned, in terms of finding other ways to provide affordable health care to people in our country.
I agree. I agree. I think it's, I think the time is right for this kind of a product. Because I think people are getting so fed up with the insurance companies and the healthcare market in general. The government is, got its nose in this thing so deep that individuals are feeling helpless, like they don't have control, they don't have the ability to make decisions. And this just takes all those handcuffs, I'd say, off of the individual members and puts the control back in the members' hands and not in working with their doctor and not the insurance company and not the bureaucrats.
I mean, think about, 2 years ago, I had surgery. You have to get an approval, you have to go, all the things that they run you through in order to even, get approved, is so difficult. Not to mention the cost of insurance. Now, I'm fortunate because my wife's a nurse and she has great insurance. But I started to even equate what she's paying, because there's always a percentage that employees pay. Even that is more expensive than what a family would plan with family. It's just my wife and I, my kids are, older. But yeah, there's tremendous benefits here that, we're still learning and we're still trying
Yeah.
to, so that we can be better educated in order to explain to our clients, here is ways to save money.
And I think one of the things we really liked about this, Keith, and about Impact Health was we don't have to be the experts. They are the experts. We're going to act as, a conduit to connect businesses with Impact Health. But we're not going to sit here and try to be the experts. We just see it as a solution. And again, one of the reasons we really liked Impact Health was because of the support that they provide in terms of answering questions and just some of the services that they offer within the system itself just seemed really, really beneficial.
Yeah, so this obviously falls under employee benefits or business ownership. It's strictly related, to health and well-being. It's not, car insurance, life insurance, it's not that. This is probably one of the largest expenses that people have, outside of maybe a mortgage. But, insurance has gotten so expensive, it's even more expensive than a mortgage these days.
I know. Well, you and I have heard some of the stories that people have been telling in terms of what they were paying through traditional insurance versus what they're paying through Impact Health. And it's not a small difference. It's a big difference. It's significant.
Well, give us an example for yourself. So, what you were paying and how much you're going to save by switching to Impact.
Yeah. So I was paying $450 a month through Blue Cross Blue Shield with I think it was a $10,000 deductible and a very limited network, which is one of the things I made a mistake on when I took this policy out at the start of the year. I bought this through the Minnesota, they call it MNsure, which is Obamacare at the state level. And one of the mistakes I made was I didn't realize how limited that network was. So my coverage hasn't been as good through this insurance product. I've actually had more out-of-pocket costs than I expected. Compare that to Impact Health, and the premium is a little over $325. So I'm going to save $125 a month, over almost $1,500 a year just in premium. I'm relatively healthy for my age, so I don't have a lot of doctor visits. I always go in for an annual physical, and that's covered 100% in in impact health. So it's, for just me, I mean, that's a big savings.
Yeah, so I mean, that's just for you as an individual. So, if it was earlier in your life with wife and children and the whole family plan, you could be spending $1,200-1,500 a month, and you could say you save 30 to 50% on those numbers.
Yeah.
You got a big chunk of change there.
Yeah. Yeah. Enough so that an individual should at least take a look at this as an option. Maybe you look at it and you say, you know what, this just isn't quite for me for whatever reason. I don't want to say that it's right for everyone, but certainly if you're, relatively healthy and you are spending, like you said, $1,200-1,500 a month on a premium today, you should at least look at what alternatives are out there. Again, maybe you decide it's not the right time for you to do it, but given the time of year we're at, 1st of October, we know we're coming up to, most companies have a 1/1 renewal date. So October, November, early December, employees are going to be hearing a lot from their employer about healthcare renewal. And I guarantee one of the messages they're going to hear is your premiums are going up 10, 20, 25%. And a lot of companies are no longer sharing evenly with the employee those increases. They're pushing them on to the employee, and rates are going up even faster than that.
What was the deductible? Well, I know they don't call it a deductible on impact health, but what did you take? The 2,500?
5,000.
5,000. Okay.
Yep.
So you even cut your out of pocket in half.
Right.
So
yes, and lowered the premium.
And lowered the premium. So I mean, look, let's face it, insurance is exactly what it's supposed to be. It's to guard against catastrophic events, whether it's home insurance, life insurance, car insurance, health insurance. All these things you have for a really unfortunate situation. So it's a necessary expense. But if you didn't have it, and God forbid something bad happened, you could be out millions of dollars. Now, of course, being able to pay that bill is a whole other story. But nevertheless, who wants to have that over their head and
Right.
not be able to go to the doctor of your choice?
Exactly. Exactly.
Oh, we don't accept that plan anymore. It's like, no, I want to go to the doctor I want to go to. To me, I think that was one of the biggest benefits, okay, of impact health. One, no open enrollment, and two, the fact that I don't have to worry if somebody's in network, out of network. I pick my doctor and I go where I want to go.
I know, and I was just telling you the story a few minutes ago how frustrated I was because I didn't realize the plan I bought for this year was so limited in the network that the doctor I just assumed, oh, it's Blue Cross Blue Shield. It's got to cover, their network is always so big, right? Well, this was purposely a limited network, which is why the premium, I was paying over $500 a year last year for the policy I had. This one was a little cheaper, and now I know why, because the network was limiting. Now, again, it's not a huge deal for me because I don't go to the doctor a lot. I don't have any chronic conditions I need to be seen for, but I tell you, it's a big issue for companies and for individuals, and I'm really glad we're talking about this today.
Yeah, I think, when you've been in business in the corporate world for as long as we have, certainly we have experience in a lot of areas, but that doesn't mean that we're experts. And, one of the things that I think we both pride ourselves on is always looking to learn and find things that will have a benefit for our clients.
Absolutely. Yep. We want to be solution providers, and we want to have resources available. So when a client does have an issue, we're not telling them, oh, go do a Google search, right? We actually can bring Now, maybe they don't choose the solution we bring, that's fine. But you and I have both talked, in fact, it's probably the reason you and I got connected in the first place was, I wanted to be a coach who could provide sales training and sales coaching, which is not, not a strength of mine. So you and I started talking and you said, hey, that's kind of right up my alley. So again, the idea being, if I come across a client who really needs, dedicated sales training and sales mentoring, you're my solution for that client, and vice versa. We've talked about that. So,
Yeah, look, the world we live in right now, building a network and a community is not what it used to be. You used to, you opened up a business, put out a shingle, storefront, whatever it was, okay? And you became friendly with your neighbors and those people you did business with. Now your shingle is online, okay? You can reach like the world if you choose, but there's really an opportunity to become an influencer, which is a big word today, influencer in, a particular vertical. So you're very influential in your expertise, which is operations and finance, and mine is more on the sales and marketing side. But we don't hold ourselves out to be something that we're not. We look for people who are within our community or that we can have join our community so that we can offer additional services without saying, well, go do a Google search, as you just said.
yeah.
Anybody could do that, but a personal recommendation from someone you're doing business with and that holds much more weight.
Well, the value to our clients, Keith, is we've already done the vetting process, right? Does that mean we're going to be perfect and can guarantee results? No, but we've already gone through the process that, as a business owner, you talk about going and doing a Google search. Well, now you gotta, okay, you find 3 resources to help solve your problem. Well, you gotta call or reach out to each one of them. It's time consuming, right? We've already done that through our vetting process. So at least a business owner should be able to take some solace in knowing that, hey, this has been vetted by somebody who, I know and I trust and can rely on them, that they've done their homework. We wouldn't bring this product to our clients if we didn't think it was a really solid product.
No, absolutely not. And the proof is in the pudding because you're using it yourself, and the time will come. My wife's retiring this year. Chances are pretty good that, I will as well. So yeah, I mean, this is something that we've talked about in the past about, what else can we do for our clients other than the reason they hired us in the first place. It's, it's value add without having to say, okay, well, this costs you more money. No, we're actually looking to create more value for what we bring to the table by bringing things that create cost reduction, more efficiencies, a better way to create an environment for their employees that is healthier, which obviously plays a role in their success.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's really well said.
So in terms of, people who are listening that have an interest in Impact Health, I will say this, but both you and I post consistently on LinkedIn. We will make this available on our YouTube channel, and there'll be additional information. We plan on having someone from Impact Health come on our show to explain certainly much better than you and I were able to do today, but nevertheless, this was just to introduce the concept so that people will see that there's more to us than just our core competencies.
Well, I think what's really interesting about this too, Keith, is it's a big organization that acts small. It is flexible. But
Yeah.
you know, you and I have been on a couple of calls with the organization, and there's a lot of people on the call. I mean, this is something that I think is really going to catch on, and it's an opportunity again for, you know, business owners to kind of be creative in how they solve a problem that they might be having, which is really really high premiums on medical insurance.
And we're happy to do it. So this was good. A little outside the box from what we normally talk about, but I think
Right.
it's still very relevant to what our show is all about.
Yeah, yeah, and I think if in the future we find other products that we're going to bring into our repertoire, we'll talk about them as well.
No question about it. So as we end today, I thank you again for joining me and for me joining you, and it's been fun.
This hurts to say, but go Mets.
Yes, I know. Speak to you next week.
I wish them the best of luck.
Thank you.